This is Midsummers, and today I will be doing a get ready with me / another book talk. It's not going to be another book review, but it is going to be me talking about the books that I read, not only in high school but in junior high as well, because I have read some books in junior high that and I've also read some Shakespeare too, so don't fret about that. But yeah, let's get into it. So I already put on my face primer. I have some concealer right here because of a zit, so I'm just gonna let that sit for a while. But yeah, so let's get started. I will be using a new product. Is this makeup palette that I got from Mexico, and I have not tested it at all yet. So it might also help if I got the tape off of. Is it taped? Oh, all right. Just gonna quickly swatch some of these real quick, but anyway, I will be talking about the books that I did like and the books I absolutely hated when I was in school, and hopefully I read some better books in college, because I'm like praying to God that I do. And yeah, so I'm gonna start with the books / plays, because I did read Shakespeare when I was in junior high, and the first one that introduced me to Shakespeare and made me love Shakespeare. Shout out to my 6th grade teacher, who I'm still friends with till this day. She introduced me to Shakespeare, and the first play I ever read was A Midsummer's Night Dream, and basically it's like a messed up version of a whole bunch of drama, love drama, and then like stuff happens, and it is one of my favorite Shakespearean plays till this day, along with Hamlet, which I will get further into. But I absolutely loved Shakespeare. That's the only thing I remember from reading 6th grade, and I got introduced to Shakespeare 6th grade. Like, I knew of him, but like I just didn't know what's it called, like who he was. And I'm just really glad that I got introduced to Shakespeare because of the fact that he is an incredible man, and I greatly appreciate his work. So there's that. So moving on to 7th grade, I read The Hatchet, which I forget the author's name, and it was like one of those books that I always see in Goodwill, like in the dairy version of young adult, when really it's like middle grade. And I don't know how I felt about it. Basically it was about this guy, and he was on a plane, and something goes wrong with the plane, and then he just gets abandoned, and then he basically has to play Bear Grylls in order to survive the plane, or survive out in the woods. And I mean, it was an okay novel. I wouldn't recommend reading it again. But then again, I was forced to read it. Color scheme I'm kind of going for my eyes is like the pastel colors, like on my nice little cardigan that I got from H&M. $7, by the way. And so I'm gonna go in some pastels. I'm gonna start out with this pastel purple, the lightest one that didn't swatch very well on my arm, but we'll see how it is on my eye. But another thing I read in 7th grade was The Giver by Lois Lowry, and I have previously read Gossamer by her, and I was like in love with Gossamer. That was probably the first chapter book I read, and I didn't like understand it quite a bit, so I had my mom read it to me, and we just kind of read it together, and I was in love with it, and I really loved it a lot. And obviously with the Giver movie, Gathering Blue is not gonna happen, obviously, but I had no idea what's a series until until I realized that it was all connected, and I was like, whoa, this is actually connected. So there's that. And then my second Shakespearean play was actually Romeo and Juliet. I didn't actually read it. I knew the premise of it, but then again, I had no idea what it was. And yeah, I think that's when I got introduced to Mercutio, who is my favorite Shakespearean character of all time, other than like Ophelia. Like he is the queen, and I would pay to see a drag show by Mercutio. I would like sell my soul to see that. And I played Mercutio. Well, we had like the class read it. Oh, that's very pigmented. We had the whole class read each part, and I wanted Juliet, but my friend Jalissa got that instead, I believe, and I wanted to play Mercutio. And yeah, I just kind of stuck with it ever since, and I love Mercutio ever since then. What's it called? And that's all I remember from 6th grade, or 7th grade. 8th grade, I read, my other Shakespearean play was Othello, and Othello is like not really known, but it's supposed to be about this African-American man, something about the drama, and I really don't know, because I really didn't like it. Like, it made no sense to me when I was, what's it called? When I read it, and then I just never liked it. I thought I was ultimate trash. So I'm probably gonna give Othello another chance. It's just that like I didn't like it. But yeah, and the other thing I read, which will be a repeat throughout high school, is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And The Outsiders probably had to be one of my most memorable reads in my in my junior high life, because my mother, who is an English teacher, teaches that story to her kids, and it's really nice to see when the kids start really liking the books. And I know she has another book, but I have not read that, so I might read it. I don't know. And yeah, I'm really digging this look I got going for my eyes. Okay, now I'm just gonna be right back, and I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with my eyeliner. So yeah, BRB. Alright, so this is the finished eye look. It's my mom. And yeah, so I read Othello and I absolutely hated it. The Outsiders, I have mixed feelings about The Outsiders, honestly. And I just really never got around to like actually liking The Outsiders. And I still don't know how I feel about The Outsiders, really. But yeah, and another thing that it will be a repeat in my high school life is Night by Eli. I say Weasel. People say Wassell, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let you flow. It is a Holocaust story about how he managed to survive it, and how he escaped, and how he survived with only his dad, and then soon enough his dad died because he was sick. And what's it called? And Eli just had to like kind of live on his own. And if you actually do like further research into it, which is what I did my freshman year, because I read it my freshman year again, would highly recommend you doing further research on it, because it's really interesting, and he mentions a lot of stuff that we did do research on, like The guy who did the research on, or did the experiments on the twins, you see one of the boys mentioned in there, and then he is never mentioned again because he died. It's really sad to see, and I just got foundation on my finger, but yeah, probably that Night is probably one of the most memorable books that I will ever read in my lifetime, and I think I read that book probably like 2 times, if not 3. And I just, yeah, it's probably one of the most memorable ones. And then high school. Oh, high school, you've read so many different pieces of literature. Let's start with freshman year. Freshman year, we started right off the bat with Oedipus. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. We just knew that it was a Greek tragedy, and we didn't know much else after that. And then once it got to the part where we find out the one crucial thing, my whole class was shook to the core. And I was just like, yikes. And then we watched the movie, and I was just like, no. And it was terrifying. And like the part where he just gouges his eyes out, and then he actually does it in the movie. I was shook. So yeah, there is Oedipus, and then I read Night again. And then we read a lot of like short stories in that class, and one of them I do remember. I don't remember the name, but I remember it was just Kurt Vonnegut, and I just I love him, so shout out to Miss Brosh for introducing me to Kurt Vonnegut, and I love Kurt Vonnegut now, and he writes a lot of sci-fi stuff. He, I believe, wrote Slaughterhouse-5, I believe, and I think that's being turned into a movie. I'm not entirely sure, but I am also excited for it. And yeah, I'm done with that brush. And then sophomore year rolled around, and I read Romeo and Juliet again, and guess who I played? Mercutio. So wrong drawer. So yeah, that was fun to play Mercutio again, and the great thing about it is that we got to reenact the sword fight that Tybalt and Mercutio did, and let me tell you, I almost got my ass whooped, and it was a really fun time, and we got to recreate the balcony scene from the stairway that we had, and we got to recreate the sword fight, and then we actually got to act it out in the class, which I also liked, and yeah, so I really enjoyed that. And I'm trying to think of other books. Oh, another book that I read, it was either sophomore or junior year, was A Child Called It. And I have heard about this book. I've heard about this book for ever. And I just knew it was it was a true story about a child who was loved by his mother. The next thing you know, his mother starts beating him and does very terrible things to him. And it is actually, the author wrote more about the story and about how he eventually got out of it, and it was just really sad to see what happened to the poor child, and he's now okay, which is great, but it was really sad to read that story. Another thing I read, we're approaching junior year now because I forgot all the other books I read my sophomore year, was A Raisin in the Sun. And I completely forgot who wrote it. And Raisin in the Sun, Raisin in the Sun probably had to be my favorite play that was not Shakespeare. And that was one of the first plays that I read in class that I didn't have to act out. So I very much appreciated it, and I got to play the wife, and my friend Tyreek, who also has a YouTube channel, you should go check him out, he's an amazing singer, got to play my husband, and it was really fun. And he's just a phenomenal actor, and I won't be surprised if he won a Grammy or if he makes it really big on YouTube, because he is a fabulous YouTuber. So please go check out his channel, please go subscribe to him. He is phenomenal. And I am so glad to call him one of my dear friends, because he is phenomenal. But anyway, little promo there for him. But it was really fun to play that character in Raisin in the Sun, because that character has so much that character was just powerful, and I absolutely loved. Snap, my hair is a wreck. It was really fun to play that character. I loved it. Another 2 years in a row, because I had the same teacher, we read 12 Angry Men. And 12 Angry Men was a blast. I absolutely love 12 Angry Men. If you don't know what 12 Angry Men is, I forgot the premise of Raisin in the Sun. But 12 Angry Men was about these men who are on jury, and they have to, there's stuff in my brush, like defend this kid on whether or not he should be guilty because he apparently murdered somebody. And I played the 11th because he had an accent, and then I believe I played the 8th. I believe I played the 8th one, and it was really fun because of all of the reenactments we did, and I was just like in love with it, and it was great. And I would definitely do it again if there was an all-female cast of it, or if there was a mixed, like, not co-ed maybe is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But if there was that, I would definitely do it again, because it was a lot of fun doing, and I did that 2 years in a row. So there's that. And now we're getting on to senior year. Senior year was when I took advanced placement, which is advanced placement, college board, all that stuff. Our school even got like college board of the year. It's kind of a big deal. And that is when I read Oedipus again. And it was really funny because none of my friends who were in that class knew what it was about and knew what they were getting themselves into. And it was really funny because I knew what was happening. I played Jocasta at that point because all of us got to read parts and all of us had to read the chorus. And it was really funny because I knew exactly what was going on, and my table was like, Gillian, what's gonna happen? And I'm like, some juicy stuff's gonna happen, that's what's gonna happen. And they're like, I don't get it. And then like once it comes up, they're like, oh my god. So it was really funny. And another thing that happened was we also read Beowulf. Beowulf probably had to be my favorite book that I ever read in English ever. Like, it was so much fun, and it was about this guy, and he is sent off to defeat this monster that has like caused the land a whole bunch of trouble, and it was an interesting read. I absolutely positively loved it, and I would definitely read it again. And when my teacher said that there is a what's it called? There is another book not written by like the same author, because Beowulf really didn't have an author because they still don't know what happened, but it was translated by Seamus something. And I have the book, but there's another one called Grendel, because towards like the second half of the book there's Grendel. It's either the first or the second half, and apparently like that is the mother of the monster, and I believe, I don't know, and there's like this whole entire other book about it, and I found it and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get this. So shout out to Dr. Bowers for making me get introduced to that. And yeah, that's another one, and I gotta go get my list.